It's Sunday, 18 May, and we are back on the Sunday show with Neil de Beer, president of the United Independent Movement and a big business favorite. Welcome back, Neil.
Chris, great to be back. Can't wait for Sundays to wrap up the week. And what a week again it has been. A very weird week, a week where I think the clowns and the circuses are just growing. And South Africans are getting to the point where they just can't believe what's going on around them. So let's hit them point by point and keep them accountable, Chris, as normal on our Sunday show.
Let's start with one of our own nepo babies, Mantashe Jr. What a saga this week.
Yeah, Mr. Buyambo Mantashe suddenly being elevated to the position of a chair at the state-held enterprises of SETA. Now, Chris, if you understand the role, and our listeners can go Google, SETA is the heart and essence of supply, control, etc. of government enterprise. And lo and behold, last week at a committee meeting in Parliament, a certain EFF member of Parliament gets up and says to the DG of SETA that he wants an acknowledgement of who appointed all the chairmen of SETA, but more than all, Mr. Buyambo Mantashe's name, the son of Gwede Mantashe, the Minister of Minerals and Enterprise and chairman of ANC's son, is a chairperson now nominated for SETA in the telecoms market. Obviously, now we see the camera footage of the chair of that committee having that member of the EFF thrown out physically, because how dare he ask such a question? Well, Chris, I don't know if we come to a moment on the Sunday show where for once we want to say, well done, EFF MP. Good on mooring them. Because this, as you said, is nepotism. This is very clear that someone at this current moment decided to appease the Mantashe family by again doing something which the ANC has now probably made one of their own scenarios, and they can actually put it down as their own publication, and that is cadre deployment, looking after family, and hundreds of them. So I now understand the day after, because of this hoo-ha, that now they are withdrawing and suspending the process of chairmanships. This shows you how guilty they are, and if we didn't get up and start making that hoo-ha, that most probably another member of a family would have been on the gravy train.
Yeah, well done to that Economic Freedom Fighters MP. I agree with you. On to the Battle of Nampo and President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Chris, it's a circus. It's like 19 lighties standing after school, cold foot in the house, and the Christmas bells are ringing. And I can remember one of the bells I loved the most was the ice cream man coming around the corner with a little cart going ding-a-ling. 20 young people rushing, each wanting an ice cream. Well, Nampo became that ding-a-ling truck, it seems, for the ANC leadership to come and disgustingly try and now fix their relationship with the Afrikaner and the Boer. Now, Chris, I think personally, the beating of these feet through the deserts and forests, for suddenly Cyril to come there and Paul Mashatile to come there and to try and tell the people that no, they do support the farmers of this country. But at the same time, Cyril says that he finds the 49 people that went over to the United States of America as cowards. He calls them cowards, sitting at Nampo. Now, I can tell you, Chris, I listened last night to a gentleman called Undrish Tatoi, who physically said how shocked he is that Nampo will allow these two draconian ANC men to come and speak at a farmers' gathering that has been going for more than 2 decades to try and actually catch a good wave amongst them. He said they dismally failed. And at this current moment, Chris, how embarrassing. Now, I'd like to comment on this fact. Cyril Ramaphosa is going next week to face the very man that's calling him a coward. So we'll talk about that after the Nampo fiasco debacle's absolute dissection of where both Paul and Cyril tried to go catch a little bit of shine. But to call people of your own country cowards, saying that they didn't want to stay here because they didn't stomach what we are. I will remind Mr. Ramaphosa that many of members of the ANC, while fighting and feeling oppressed in this country, also left this country. Now, I am with any doubt. Listen. Hey, luister. I am not drawing a similarity between apartheid and the current problems we're having in this country. Please, I won't do that. You know I won't. I come from there. You can't draw the similarity. But before Cyril Ramaphosa gets up and says that people are cowards, without understanding each one of those families' plights and where they come from and what happened to them, he should remember that people that in the ANC that felt oppressed also left. Will you call them cowards? No, we won't call them cowards. This is the cowardice of this man. I'll tell you what's a coward. A coward is a man that when it came for us to realize that we had a COVID problem, hid and laid behind his own walls and his own stones. This is the coward that when it had to come time to face up that people stole money in this country and looting was taking place, this is the coward that hit them. This is the coward that had to acknowledge in a leaked cell phone between ANC NEC members that without a doubt, public money was used to boost the ANC's election. This is the coward that when it came to the time to admit that state capture happened under his watch, while he was the deputy president with Jacob Zuma. This is the coward that said nothing. This is the coward that when it came that they found money in his mattress at Pala Pala, started using state enterprise to protect his service. This is the coward that when it had to be taken to Parliament to investigate, used the ANC to throttle such investigation. This is the coward that is refusing to get up and acknowledge, I don't care for the word genocide, but that farmers are being brutally slaughtered and murdered in this country. This is the coward that is refusing to acknowledge that we made mistakes by backing Iran. This is the coward. This is the coward. So if I had to really start writing stuff down about cowardice in this country from a man who calls other people cowards, then Cyril Ramaphosa, like you had to admit at the Zondo Commission that the ANC is accused number one, well, Mr. Ramaphosa, you are coward number one. And until you don't fix that, you'll remain so. Sis, ga, kan nie glo, jy noem jouself a president nie. And then not even to talk about the lucky Paul Mashatile, who also put dust on the million rands of black cars driving into Nambu. He is not supposed to be there because he himself is the person that said that he would be spearheading taking land without compensation. To the farmers at Nampu who were there, I am very sorry to tell you that you let those wolves into that area. And I hear that when both of them were talking, certain people were even clapping hands. Disgusting. And they will deserve what they get when they come to America. A goeie pak sla. And I'm telling you, Chris, I hope that Donald Trump sal al twee para hulle moer stuur because they deserve that from my side. I feel much better now.
Let us look at the composition of Team SA for that bout with US President Donald Trump this week.
They're going to be slaughtered. I mean, they've asked Cyril Ramaphosa, are you ready? Could you maybe be walking into a Zelensky? Are you prepared? And Cyril, again, as normal, says, no, I'm not going for confrontation. I'm going there to talk about trade. Het hierdie ou 'n klap gekry met 'n bouerpan. Chris, is he allegedly on Valium? Wat sê hierdie ou? Because let me quickly tell you, he is going to go into an area where he insulted categorically Donald Trump, where a person like Ronald Lamola is the spearheading justice operator that laid the charges at ICJ. You've got the Minister of Agriculture going with, who currently went to Nampo and was drowned by two people that just ostracized him and took over, and where they ended up having to defend the ANC again. And he's going to have to sit there and they're going to have to answer the question, not about growth and agriculture or staying at AGOA, but they're going to talk about land without compensation. And the big fight, Chris, that people even had to run to Google or Grok to go ask what is the difference between nil and zero. We had to go and fight because someone was saying that nil and zero compensation is actually different. So, the composition of all of this merry bunch of jelly tots flying over to go see Donald Trump even includes our most favorite ministry in the presidency, little Mrs. Kumbutsa. And that little lady, Mrs. Kumbutsa, is going to merrily get there, and Mrs. Kumbutsa Nasheveni is going to sit there as the minister in the presidency with an 80 million alleged rand corruption charge that is still hanging over her head. So, Chris, can you imagine? This is a merry bunch of alleged thieves, circus clowns, and bears going to sit in front of one massive power and having to talk their way out of it. Chris, great things have happened in the past. You never know. Probably Cyril's going to try and do the projects and try and turn on the charm, and other people are going to run cover. I am fearing what the result will be when they come back, but all I can tell you is get your popcorn, get your slush, get your duvet, and let's see this thing live. It's going to be better than the launch of the trilogy of Lord of the Rings.
Talking about Nitsaveni, Solidarity has just issued her with a legal notice over what they deem her false accusations of misinformation and treason.
Yeah, she's like the court jester. Hey, she jumps up and down and she says that this one's wrong and this one's wrong. And she even goes on SABC, what's left of the SABC. And because I think that just takes a second, the SREK. So the SABC apparently being in turmoil and not being able to run anymore. So daar sal SR maar weer K. Chris, she goes on national television and she says that people should be charged with treason if they actually belittle or speak bad of the country. What's happened to democracy? Chris, I thought we fought for freedom of speech. I thought we fought that people in this country could get up and say their say. Yeah, there is a thin line between hate speech and freedom of speech, but we all know that. But if you've got a crap country, an absolute bullshit management, and you get up and you say it and people threaten you with jail, what kind of draconian state are you creating? Well, what we would like to know is you that get up there, Mrs. Kubatsu, who continually threaten people with jail, with treason. I look at her and she's trying to refer to the Intelligence Act on TV while she's saying she wants to lock people up and she doesn't even know what the act is. Jy gaan tronk toe. If I were you, I would be focusing more on opening and making sure that I am credible before you say South Africans are not credible. Because this is a travesty of justice. The fact that people like I and you could be locked up and charged because we are commenting not on absolutely lies, but on fundamental truths every Sunday. It is our right. And because we've got nothing to gain with it except death threats and a multitude of people that want to murder us, lock us up, because all we do is we take a week's news without fear or favor and we take it to the table and say, but you are wrong. And if we are continually going to be threatened that we have no longer the right according to this constitution, then, Chris, again, we are not going to get up and leave the country. We are going to take you and fight you on every legal parameter that we can, Chris. And maybe it's time that we have an indaba. Yeah, maybe it's time that people like Alec Hogg and people like Biz News that has got a network, even our network that we have, Chris. I am challenging Alec Hogg of Biz News tonight to call up a conference between business and the legal fraternity of this country for 2-3 days, and I would like to call it the Liberty Conference. Chris, maybe it's time that we have something called the Liberty Conference. And at this conference, everybody that is anybody that has to do with freedom of speech, that has to do with defending the Constitution, the right of business in this country. Can you imagine? I think that conference will be well attended, because maybe it's time that we, as South Africans and the leadership in this country, speak about our liberties. Because if they take away our liberties, they're going to take away our business. The one is just on the other. So, Chris, maybe you can speak there to someone, because it looks like that indaba, the reset indaba, which again Paul Mashatile had to actually spearhead in this country, is also not happening. So why don't we as South Africans get together and really put a few people together and talk about the liberties and the possible taking away of such liberties? Because that's what they do.
I think we're coming full circle, Neil. Anyway, let's look at another member of that team. Democratic Alliance leader John Steenhuisen. Many people are calling for him to be replaced as the leader of the party and certainly as the Minister of Agriculture.
Chris, I have always said that in many cases a person wants to actually address the problem and not the man. We have made many discussions on this platform about the DA versus the ANC. But what has happened, no matter how the people at this current moment want to stall the jelly, we have no more opposition in this country. The biggest failure in the GNU at this moment is that the country has become silent. We are sitting in a matter where either the ANC will turn around and say our tactic worked, or the DA will have to get up and go, we were caught by surprise. Can I stand still on that matter, if I may? Just the dissection of this. The era where we had a Helen Zille, a stunning, and John is and was a unbelievable chief whip, under the guidances, obviously, of other parliamentary leaders. The feistiness of the DA, the intellectual debates that the DA could bring, truly was a thorn in the side of the ANC, and you can be with me on this or not. When we went into the multi-party charter, which you know I was one of the leaders, we were in factual fact preparing to take over government. It was Neil de Beer, John Steenhuisen, Pieter Groenewald, the Honourable Schlabisa of the IFP, Herman Mashaba, and 3 or 4 other parties that were there. We were ready to take over government. And as the election crept closer to May 29, 24, we realized that it was not going to happen. A deal was made. When that deal was made, history will tell, and the GNU was woken up. Chris, by the GNU, coming on, many people listened to when the DA had to get up and explain. When it said it's going to rescue South Africa, but rescue the country from whom? And it was very clear that they were going to rescue South Africa from the ANC. History will now tell you that they are in government together. And the expression had to be made, but why? And it was that rather the devil you know. Because we've had a program about 5 months ago when we spoke about this thing which is now creeping in, which becomes the excuse, the acceptable oros in the can of water. The palatableness is when you say, for the greater good. We had to do this for the greater good. We have to do this for being wary of the devil we know. DA then became a partner of the ANC. So did the PA, so did Peter Groenewald, etc. I believe it was negotiated that way, and it was. Because what happened to us as a country, though, politically, like it or not, the DA's voice is no longer the thunder that it was. The DA's equipped stability to ferociously and viciously attack the ANC on every matter where they are getting up and slaughtering the current law, the current liberty, and the current ethos of this country's absolute freedom has become stifled and silent. The heated debates that we used to depend on in that parliament, which has now become a tent, has become silence of the lambs. The little quips, the little situations of poking 1 or 9 or 12 cases to keep the absolute law in place has become a circus and as comical as the best show in comedy you can find on TV. We have lost the momentum of having to be able to draw sword on sword. We have lost the momentum where we could get up and take on the cabinet members one by one in the parliament in public to annihilate them for doing theft, corruption, nepotism, and failure of service. And the reason for that is there's no longer a credible opposition left in this country. The mere fact that you've got DA ministers sitting in the exact cabinet of wolves, of the draconian dragons, and having to be silenced because they serve an overlord. Nico Roux het gisterand gesê, dit is 'n verskrikking om te sien hoe die volk moet kniel voor 'n adder, sodat daai adder hulle nie met gif kan smeer. That were his words of the people at Nampo. 'n Adder in Afrikaans translated to English is a snake, an adder. And that's Cyril Ramaphosa. I am and will make a statement here today that if the DA does not get up, stand back and become the DA again, get up and fight, no matter if it costs us now the seats of power. At the end of the day, we want an opposition back that was and is them in the format they were. Because I am sorry to say, Chris, and you've never heard me say this, you will declare this, I have not said this in the recent past, that if we are going on the trajectory we are today, that the loss of a country will be blamed not on the ANC, not on the fact that they are riding still on a horse which they claim to be the house of power when they've got 40%, but because of the Democratic Alliance not being now able to get up and freely defend us on a surgical basis like they previously had to. That they have to at times snubble themselves, keep quiet because of. Now here's a message from a person who carries weight in voice and power, Neil de Beer. We cannot continue down this road because politically we are falling apart because we have no more and cannot muster any more defense against an ANC who annihilates us in politics, disregards the GNU, absolutely takes us for fools, and continues to run this country, Chris, as if they are still in power. Someone has to get up and stop saying, if that happens, this will happen. They have to take out the atomic bomb and drop it in the GNU, because they are not going to let us do what justice should be done. Time has come now. And I hope the comments on this Sunday show will show and reflect that what I have just said, many thousands of South Africans will agree with me. And I am sorry, but John is fighting a battle of his life. Everybody's trying to cover them. But it has become time now that we realize that we are in bigger trouble than what we thought in this GNU. We are better outside than what we are within.
That is certainly the sentiment of many people who have been contacting me in recent days too, Neil. While we're still on the party leadership issue, another name has come up of somebody who is now being regarded as a worthy future leader of the African National Congress, and that is Dr. Zamani Soul, the Premier of the Northern Cape, where the African National Congress has won 4 wards of opposition parties since last year's election.
Ja, Chris, he's not failed. I mean, when you talk about Uppington, Springbok, Northern Cape, you know, if there's an area in the Cape, you can see I am still white in the face. I am white. Ja, ek was nou kwaad. It doesn't get me much to rile me up. Sorry, Chris, but you know, when you sit in a country and you see obvious things happening and I sit there and I can't do anything about it, the person gets so frustrated. So, yeah, I hope sense and sensibility comes. Chris, when you talk about the Northern Cape, it's as if it is a family member that's too far to come for Christmas. But you know, their family. You know, it's that uncle that you hope he bakes it, because when he gets to the Christmas, he'll have 1 or 2 sherries and light up the party. So the Northern Cape is there. You know, it's a person that is fun. The people of the Northern Cape, they are beautiful. You know, it's Uppington, it's the Kalahari, it's the people. And lo and behold, it is probably one of the ANC's strongest areas at the moment. And it is so because there's Dr. Souls, who gets up, has not reversed any of the African National Congress's losses in the sense of just giving up, is actually won by-elections. So if there was good news in the ANC, it would probably be the Northern Cape, so much so, you know, that Cupcake Cyril had to go there. And he had to go acknowledge that in a speech where, again, he stuffed it up in unification and racial relations. But I don't think Dr. Souls was absolutely sitting there and waiting for the pat on the back. I think he knows who he is. So, yeah, enter another possible name. But Chris, can I tell you why I doubt he would be put on the list? I think by now we know what kind of criteria you need to be the president of the ANC. And I think if you look at the credentials you require, I think he's too honest, and I think he is too good to ever dawn that kind of draconian darkness in his heart that needs you to become the president of this current ANC. You know, when you talk about people like Minister Mchunu, Chris, he's also become quiet. You know, he came out there as a person that we know rolls up the sleeves. Chris, he's become very quiet of late. This is when the dark crude oil of the ANC just slithers down your body and encapsulates you like being in a barrel of oil. I hope that Dr. Souls, who's doing a great job, will be given an opportunity. But Chris, as a good man told me one day, when a mongoose falls into a pit of cobras, the only hope is that you hope that the mongoose remains a mongoose. And that's the story of the Northern Cape.
On the subject of darkness, Neil, former Vlakplaas commander, Colonel Eugene de Kock and the Cradock Four, back in the news.
Yeah, it's not going away. You know, Chris, a person must look at it from two sides. As you know, I vehemently had a lot to say in the era of the TRC. When that was over, it was supposed to be over. One man's terrorist is another person's liberation fighter. It's always from the perspective of where you come from. When you look at Prime Evil, which they adopted his name, Eugene de Kock, because today I will still say that he was the fall guy. I absolutely believe that Eugene de Kock was the fall guy. He went to jail for many generals and bastards. He sat his time, and he was given parole by this very ANC government. Now, a case that doesn't want to go away, and because it shouldn't go away, let's talk about Audi Altius Partem. Talk about the other side. If I'm not mistaken, it's the Cradock Four. And that case that is coming, where it is apparent that security police kidnapped and murdered those four, and they were slaughtered in an operation spearheaded by Vlakplaas and the security police. Eugene de Kock is in that case and will be, I think, subpoenaed to appear as a witness at that case. And what Eugene de Kock is saying, Chris, and I'm open for correction, is that he wants government to supply him with defense. Now, funny, Chris, how is this going to work? Not funny, ha-ha, but funny, odd. Chris, he was a member of the apartheid police, a renowned member of the security police, and headed up that unit. Is he saying that because his actions were ordered by seniors of the then SA police, that today, because he is going to appear, most probably at that case, that the police, the very police, should supply with counsel? Because he was acting at that stage as an officer of the police. Now that's very interesting, Chris. That will be a very interesting case to follow and to see whom else will come out on that case. Because we already know who's involved. But Chris, with Eugene de Kock sitting there, and we know who he is, will Eugene de Kock now say who ordered it? Because it is the same story as JFK. Who ordered it? It's the same as Chris Hani. Who ordered it? And it will be the same as who on the Cradock Four ordered it. And I think that is the thing that will make this return of Eugene de Kock again shockingly and suddenly to modern day history more interesting than not.
Lastly, Neil, There has been another mass shooting in KZN.
Chris, today seems to be a more serious show because we're talking about serious matters. And I'm normally a jovial person, but today, when I went into the show, I knew we were going to touch matters that are horrific, matters that touch you to the soul, matters that, again, this absolute cowardly president cannot face and does not have the guts to face. I knew this show was going to be a hard one. Another 8 people in a mass shooting shot outside Umlazi. 6 men, 2 women, riddled with bullets. Suspects are known. Motive unknown. 8 people shot en masse. Because it's not the first mass shooting in KZN. This is not the first mass shooting in the Republic. We've had several, if not 12 or 15 of them in the Western Cape. And last night while I was preparing for the show, I see Cyril Ramaphosa at a event this weekend, not only denying the fact that people in this country are violent, but denies the height of crime in this country, whilst 2 hours before he made his speech, the 8 bodies were found. Chris, there's something that the Sunday show must clarify quickly because I see it's coming. I know the show is the one that always exposes it. Chris, we should have never used the word genocide because they're now picking on the word genocide. Instead of finding a solution to the current horrific murders that are happening more than 80 to 90 a day, they are now saying that doesn't happen because there's no genocide in this country. I agree. The word genocide has now become a matter of now a word instead of looking at the actions behind it. The ANC is now trying to deny genocide. They're trying to get Kali Krul and everybody that can get to a microphone to say, is there a genocide? Chris, they were wrong by saying it's a genocide. They should have used the word mass murder. Crime is out of control in this country, and currently they can't deny that mass murder is happening day to day in this country. So if you are not satisfied with genocide, park it, take it out of the equation, don't use it in the vocabulary, but then admit that mass murder, brutal murder is happening in this country. Not just to white, but to every single race classification in this country. Mass murder. That Cyril Ramaphosa is getting away with it because when they ask him, Mr. Ramaphosa, is there a genocide in the country? He says, no, there's no genocide because genocide is clarified. Okay, then take genocide away. Then say it what it is. An uncontrolled criminal procedure is happening in this country of mass slaughter of our citizens. Can he admit to that?
He'll be very
Chris
surprised.
Stop praying. Say, Chris?
I say he'll be shocked again, Neil, as usual.
No, he will be, because I don't think he even understands what he is currently sitting in. So, Chris, if I was a person questioning Cyril, I would leave the big words where people now go and study the Oxford Dictionary about genocide, suicide, mass criminality. No, there's a mass murder taking place in this country on a daily basis. The 49 people that left this country left because they felt, no matter who they are, they felt that they do not want to be taken part of this mass murder in this country. It's their right to go. So I'm saying, Chris, on that matter, if they want to go, let them go. I don't care. They took the decision. The decision by Trump is there. Leave Trump alone. Decisions were made. Why are we not focusing on the trouble that we have in this country? And the trouble in this country is we have a collapse of crime. We have a collapse of crime combating. There's no more fighting, Chris, that is helping us to stop the mass murders in this country. And in conclusion on this matter, Chris, it is very clear that the playing of words is currently taking precedent instead of solving the problems in this country. Shocking that we are playing this game, and that while we are trying to tell leadership, fix this, that they continually turn around and say, let's get our grammar right first. That's not going to fly. And we better find a better solution than this. And maybe the better solution is that when we go to the elections next year, we remove all these people and replace them with people that actually have got credibility, honor, and ethics. That's my solution.
Thank you, Neil. That was Neil de Beer on the Sunday show with Biz News after a very grim week in South Africa. I'm Christine. Thank you, Neil.
Thanks, Chris, and everybody have a great week ahead. Maybe a better one next week.